Welcome, Charlie, to Metalarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Paradox, this new album, Mysterium, and more things related to the metal world in general. So we started by asking, how are you doing today? How is the band during the last year? Because your previous album, Re-engage the Past, it was released in 2024, and now we have this new album.
Yeah, well, it was not planned to record this album by myself alone.
Mhm.
So this time I recorded when I composed the songs. I recorded the bass on it just to have a better sound, to listen to my songs, have a better sound. And then I
Mhm.
sent it to the bass player Oli Keller, which is a good friend of mine, one of the best. And he
Mhm.
said it's so good that I should let it on the tape because he couldn't play it better. He said, and then I worked with Axel Blaha on the drums,
Mhm.
and but he was mentally not capable anymore of to record the drums. And then he said to me, please program the drums because um, I know how to do it, because you must have a years long knowledge to do that. Yeah, and you must be a drummer in your head, and that was my first instrument 50 years ago.
Okay.
So then I did the drums, and I was always singing when I was a child to music, and so and I play the guitar, the rhythm guitar, and that's why I recorded everything by myself. Um, the only thing was the topic was Christian Münzner, who was the lead guitar player, but he was involved in several projects, so I had to wait too long, and then I made a virtue out of necessity
Mhm.
and did everything alone, and it worked out good. And so now we have Mysterium coming out on the 26th of September. And it was a challenge to record this record, but I'm totally satisfied with the result.
Okay. So in this kind of situation, you mentioned that this album was is not thinking to record for this year, perhaps in the next year. So, and when do you decide exactly when do you decide to start and run songs for this new album for Mysterium? It was
Uh,
perhaps.
no, it was in 20. Actually, I wanted to start a new chapter with Matt Drake of Evil,
Mhm.
because we were friends and writing together. And I wrote the bonus track for Mysterium, actually for this new thing. But then it doesn't happen, and then I chose it for Paradox, and this was in December 2022. And then I started in January 23 to compose the first songs, and it took a half a year around to do the basic stuff.
Okay.
And then the whole recording process for the final for the final mix that took around. I was finished in July 24 and sent it to the record company, but the record company couldn't release it anymore because somebody bought this company, and then I had to search for a new label. And at the same time, High Roller Records dropped me a line they were interested into, and so it took a while to release this album because I was finished in last summer. It's 1 year old. I have the distance
Mhm.
to the distance to know how good this album is, because if you listen the first two
Mhm.
three times to that album,
Mhm.
you must hear it more often, because it grows and grows more and more. And now with the distance, I can say this is with Heresy together, of course, because Never Touch a Classic. It's in the newer times of Paradox, I guess, the best record, of course. The sound is better. The whole thing is awesome.
Hmm. Okay. Amazing. Amazing. Well, yes, you said it that is because the previous album, Heresy Second, End of a Legend. So it was released by under AFM Records, and you said the AFM Records it was by for another label, and now you are releasing this new album with High Roller Records. So, and this one, how it was the transition, for example, to for the FAM Records, because AFM Records is a bigger label, and High Roller Records like a medium label now.
Yeah, but they work with passion for the band, and it's not that they put out 80 records and or 80 bands and you are, yeah, just one band more, you know. I'm totally satisfied with that label because they are old school. They think old school, and I'm an old school guy, and I think that's a good place for Paradox because Paradox don't want to reach success like a band like Megadeth or something like that. This is impossible. So I feel home at High Roller Records, and I'm thankful, of course, what AFM Records did for Paradox. But now the communication is great, and everything is great what they do. And I guess if a Paradox fan know that our new record will be out, he will know it about the internet and stuff, you know. So you don't need a big label to reach the people. It took a little bit longer, but every Paradox fan will know there is a new record coming.
Okay. One thing that you said is that this Mysterion is not planned to release by yourself or to record all the instruments or to do by yourself all the things. Since because your previous album Heresy 2, you have members of the band, but now
Yeah.
this complete album is releasing or all the songs are recorded processed by you. So why do you decide now to release all these items by yourself? Because you mentioned that at the beginning.
Yeah, I mentioned in the beginning because, as I said, I recorded the bass, and the bass was finished. It was good. It was great, and Ellie said it's great. And I had no other choice because Axel can't record the drums anymore. So I had to. If I had searched a new drummer to rehearse everything in a rehearsal room, and it costs money, you know, and time, more time. And then if I can do it by myself, I did it by myself. It was not planned because it was also I don't want to sell Paradox as a band if it is not a band, and that's the other reason, you know. And I don't like to have musicians in the band who are play on as many records as they can, because if you are in a band, you have to be in a band with 100% passion, and not playing in five bands. And where is the passion for which band you know, for which band you work on one route, and this is necessary. And Axel Blaha did this with me, but he don't live anymore. So, but I can imagine that I will form a line-up for a final Paradox show or something like this, or a few shows. I don't know, but it was for me a little bit a kind of independence. What I don't must wait for any lead guitars or something like that, you know. And it is not a lack of quality on that album because it's the same songwriter, it's the same singer, it's the same rhythm guitar or a guitar player at all. And so there is nothing on it where it's a lack of quality.
Okay, okay. Interesting, interesting. So it was a decision during the record process of this one. Interesting, interesting. So now one thing also captured my attention about, especially for the discography for Paradox, is one of the biggest albums from you is Heresy. A lot of people remember that album. Now that's why I think you decided to release in 2021 this Heresy 2, End of a
Yeah.
Legend. So, and where is the reason exactly for decide to release the second part for the heresy? It's in a special meaning, or because that album puts on the map? Who knows?
Well, I've got after many years I've got in contact with Peter and Nigel Vogt, who wrote the lyrics for the first Heresy album.
Mhm,
And he's Peter said to me, "Hey Charlie, I have a story in my shelf,
mhm,
um, which could be a follow up to Heresy, story wise, not music
okay.
wise." And I said, if I do a second, no, if I do a second Heresy album, everybody will, yeah, will think that it sounds the same like the Heresy one, and this
Mhm,
is not so good. Or I try to get back the success of Heresy with just with the name Heresy 2, but that was not the reason. And first I said, no, this is not really a good idea. But he said, this story is great. So, and then I talked to the guys, and they said, why not? We don't must do put out a Heresy record with the same music from the 80s, because then you have no development as a musician, you know. And then, but story wise, it was interesting because it was a fictive story, and the first story of Heresy was a real story, which happened. And then we did it. Yeah, but it was a little bit long, this album, because I've got 14 lyrics I got lyric for 14 songs, and I have to work out the music for, and then it was 1 hour and 20 minutes long. It was like a double album, and I guess for a customer it's a bit too long, you know, if you want to listen from A to Z. But if you are a Paradox fan, you will. You are happy that you have a couple of songs more.
Okay, okay. Interesting. So it was a decision for the previous
Yeah,
writing.
it was. Yes, it was from the first idea came up from the lyricists, because I never thought to do another Heresy album. Yeah, and it will be the last, of course. And
Okay.
short after the release of
Mhm.
Heresy 2, the lyricist died on cancer. So he got the record, and a few days later he died. Oh, it was a sad story.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I saw that in the previous album. Yes, the
Mm.
previous album in this situation, Alex Balaha
Yeah,
died in 2023. I saw this information.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
oh, okay, okay. Now, well, the band in your career has more than 50 years, has more than 40 years of existence, because the band started in 1981. You called Overkill at the beginning, then you
Yeah.
changed the name many times. Well, three times with Maniac, then Warhead, and now we have Paradox on this one. So, how many things changed for you into the music industry compared to for the beginning of the band? You started, you was there when the thrash metal exploded in the world, and
Yeah.
now there is more than you have more than 40 years of career with your band.
Actually, I didn't thought that I got this age. No, what changed is it's more a fast move today. So in the past, when this kind of music started and you bought an album, you listened to that album from A to Z, and you lived with that album. And nowadays, many people they click on the song and
Mhm.
listen 1 minute. If it's not so good in the first minute, they click to the next song and to the next song. And if the band is just average, then they click to the next band, you know, because nowadays you have 150 albums each month. And in the 80s, it seemed that each album is great. And then when the next album came out, it was enough time to listen to the whole album and get the atmosphere of that album. If I remember such classic new wave of British heavy metal albums, Wow, I was in 1981, I was a Raven fan, and they put out a record called Wiped Out. And it was crazy. It was speed. It was, yeah. And and that's why I'm a fan of the old school, not just because I started in that time. It was a time where it was a community. Everybody stands together, but because we were outstanding people for the society, you know what I mean? And and then we were like a family. And if you went to concerts, everybody loves everybody on a heavy metal concert. And today, okay, if they don't like a band, if the band sounds too modern, and they are not so open anymore than it was. But the basic is stable. And if I hear what's going on in South America, how the when I see the concert on YouTube, how the fans, wow, support the bands, like this it was here in the area, like this it was in the beginning. So I'm so grateful that on some places in the world, the fans are like they were in the 80s. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, okay. So, and when this topic that you said it, you mentioned one thing that nothing is compared to the 80s or the 90s. Because in the 80s or the 90s, we have I was a child in the 80s, but it was a teenager in the 90s. And I remember very well that releases, for example, you have 30 releases, but it was by in 6 months or seven months 30 releases. And you said it. We have a
Yeah.
lot of time to hear. But now there is just 30 or 40 releases per weekend. It's different. The difference is completely. It's not compared to that era or that
Yeah,
decades.
and how difficult must be for a journalist who have to review such many albums in a month when the next album when the next month come and another 150 albums, it must be difficult because you can't take that time to go completely in this album how good it really is.
Mm,
Because as I saw, I catch myself when I said on Heresy 2 and
mhm.
on Pangea that this is my best album because it was new, it was fresh. And then you say, and then you say it's your song and it must be the best. And then you say that's the best album. But you can't do this. This is a this is a fault because you take the distance. You must have the distance to listen as often as you can to that album to get the right yeah, meaning of everything.
Okay. Okay. And when this topic, what kind of opinion do you have for these overwhelming releases per weekend? Because it's not your Paradox has an status. A lot of people know for your previous albums. I was there. I remember I was here Heresy when I was a child, so that's completely normal. But now there's a ton of bands releasing with your influence, with the thrash metal influence for the 80s especially, that trying to get attention from the people. But there is too much to hear. It's not possible to
Yeah,
hear 40 albums
yeah,
in a week. It's impossible.
yeah, yeah. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's just impossible
Mhm.
because you have 24 hours a day,
Mhm.
and so not more, and you have to sleep, and you have to eat, and you have to do your other stuff the whole day. Yeah, it's too much, but better too much than a lack of bands. So if I could take it an advice to new bands is just if you play an instrument, then go on to play this instrument, but don't expect something that you get famous or that you get money for or something. Do it just with passion, do it as your hobby. And if then somebody says your music is good, yeah, then go on and in general go on because it's great to play an instrument. You can go in another world. You can you can do yeah, it's good for everything, for a mood.
Okay, okay, well that is true. That is true. There is a lot of there is a tons of releases for this now. So
Yeah.
and with this kind of topic, well, we'll return into the Mysterium. So if we, what kind of plans do you have for Mysterium? As you are a solo band now. This for Paradox. So what kind of plans do you have, for example, for live presentation? Perhaps you will present more videos. Who knows? What kind of plans do you have for Paradox and for Mysterium?
So what I plan is to do more videos. And I talk to musicians about if it's possible to play live that shows. And I'm in contact with some great people right now, but I don't can promise anything now. But I plan to do one record more, a final record with Paradox, but it doesn't must be say that this is the end of Paradox, because if I have mood to do a Paradox song after the next record, then I can put it out as a streaming or something. But I will do one more Paradox physical record, and maybe some shows with the right people. But there is nothing planned, especially for Mysterium, just to do a little bit more videos, because you can reach a lot of people with videos, and then they can see me, because of course, I miss the stage. I miss the contact to the people, because I talk to the fans. I like talking to the fans permanent. If I visit a concert, I'm always talking to the fans, and because I'm a fan, you know, I'm the same like each person who go in a concert, you know.
Okay, okay, interesting. So now talking about more now other kind of things for especially for the metal scene. So we spoke about a lot about this Mysterium and the Paradox career, and as well here when a heresy appears on the words appears when the technical or progressive thrash metal it was a boom, thanks to Megadeth, thanks to all the bands in the world at that moment. So now, as you can see, there is like few bands play technical or progressive thrash metal. I don't know why, but mostly the people lean down to just the style, the thrash metal with the old influence. So, and for this, what do you think always the thrash or technical, or sorry, the progressive or technical thrash metal, it was not a style that has a lot of bands, because there is like a super underground scene with this kind of music. Not all bands has the talent or has the time to play this progressive, because the last progressive thrash metal is Vector. Vector is one of the last ones. But then there's no more bands. Then we are released. Then the old bands return, Toxic, You, just but new bands just Vector. So why do you think the thrash metal always be like the some difficult to release more records?
Yeah, that's also some reason is the time. The time is more, it's the same, fast moving today. They don't take the time for. They want to go out as fast as possible to get something from the cake. So they every band, if they if they start to think to make a debut album or a demo tape, they should take this time. Equal if it takes a year or 2 years. This is the first step, is the most important step, and they should take more time. Another reason is, if a band go on tour and then do an album out, next tour again an album out, I guess it could be a lack of quality of the albums, you know. That's the next step. Yeah. So I the only thing is the only reason what I think is they don't take enough time to create their songs, because technical it is of course it's a matter of taste, of course. Yeah, what it's technical, what it's progressive or not.
Mhm.
But I agree with you. I agree with you. In the past time, By the way, Vector, I'm a fan of Vector. They're a great band. Yeah, I'm waiting for another record of them. Yeah, Outer Isolation is a wow. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay, okay,
that
okay.
would be a band. That would be a band I would like to play with them. So.
Hmm. Okay, okay, and with this kind of topic, so you can see now that there is like, well, there is the technicality on the into the extreme metal especially is blown away now. You can see a lot of great musicians, a lot of great records, especially the great records. I mean, because the metal, you was there when the metal sounds so raw, so with organic. Then the nights continue this thing, but now all the records that you have in 40 releases per weekend sounds amazing. Clean, super technical, great musicians, no bad records now. It's difficult to find you a bad record for the sound, especially, or for the technicality of the musician. So, how do you see this situation on the extreme metal, especially that the all the band sounds amazing, sounds great, no bad records now?
Uh, yeah, maybe it's that the market is full of too much bands.
Mhm.
You can't put out a new riff nowadays anymore because every riff exists what you can play on guitar. And then some musicians think on themselves, on their ego, to play as fast as they can on the guitar, and as they would be on Olympic Games, how the fastest guitar player. But that is not necessary. Necessary is the song. A song must be great. A song must be good, and you have to take your time to create this song. And if you have not the possibility to record it with a bigger budget, with that's also a reason nobody has money anymore, and the record labels don't pay as much money to a new band, so they have to record by themselves. Yeah, and there are so many reasons. So, but I come always back to that point that that they have not enough time to create good stuff together.
Hmm.
You know,
Okay.
not every band. There are some good bands out there, but not as many as in the 18 row.
Hmm. Okay, okay, okay. So, and well, this topic, well, another kind of topic that is, well, I think is common now because, as I said, there is a ton of thrash metal bands now. There's just thrash metal bands, no more, no like progressive or technical stuff, but there's a ton of thrash metal bands that playing with your influence, with the Paradox influence, Testament influence, Slayer influence. Well, no, we have a lot of lists. But now, in some ways, just the thrash metal is one of the styles that stagnated with the old influence. There is no bands, there's no new bands. For example, there's no a new band like Metallica,
This
there's
is a
no
good.
band.
This is a good point. This is a good point. Now, new bands try to copy old bands. That
Mhm,
what is what's happened nowadays. There is nothing new. It's just most of the bands who play thrash metal nowadays, they are influenced as I be influenced from the old Metallicas and stuff like this, you know.
mhm,
And they try to sound like bands from the 80s.
mhm,
They should try to put out a new sound, how it sounds 2030, you know, to
mhm,
be a step forward and not steps back. You know, always is just like in life. I look forward, not back.
mhm,
I know Heresy was a great record,
mhm,
yeah, and I'm sure many fans would like to hear exactly a copy of that, you know. But I can't do that as a composer. I want have a I want to develop as a producer and as a composer of music. No, but you need to have the possibilities to it depends on which equipment you have to record and stuff like this. And this costs a lot of money, and then you have uh, uh, obstacles.
Okay, okay. So, and then with these things related, with this situation. So, why just the thrash metal has this kind of limit to evolve in new things? I don't know why, but just it's thrash metal because when we hear new bands, Neither bands, you said it, sounds like the 80s bands. No bands. Just Lamb of God sounds like some modern, but it was one of the latest. And we are talking for 25 years ago because Lamb of God appeared at the ends of the 90s. So
Yeah.
25 years ago. So it means that the last thrash metal band, the personal sound, could be just Lamb of God. But then all these new bands sounds like the 80s bands. So what do you think always the thrash metal doesn't have this doesn't have this option to evolve with new situation? Why the thrash metal is so stagnated with the old bands? Because when I saw YouTube channels with the thrash metal stuff, and I just put it the list just to hear what's going on with thrash metal now. Just put it play, and just the cover art change and the cover art change are the name of the band change. But if you are far away from the PC, you don't recognize which bands we are talking about. It's not like when you hear 80s, Slayer, Metallica, Saddles, Paradox sounds different. These four bands sounds completely different. But now we have tons of bands sounds same. So why did all this thrash metal not has the opportunity to grow up with the no sounds?
This is a very good question. uh, yeah, to find out this reason, it's not easy because there were so great bands in the 80s, and they are all fans of that music, and they grew up with this music. And that's why they are so much inspired of that music that they want to sound like Ride the Lightning or Rain in Blood or, or Bonded by Blood. And these are milestones. And nowadays we have no milestones anymore. We have just copies, and not all band, of course, but a lot, as you said. They sound all like the 80s, and that what the reason is that they were all great, these records which were released in that era, and that's why they want to sound same. And they saw that such bands have success, like
Mhm.
Testament, Exodus, and all that bands. They are still alive. Death Angel,
Mhm.
Forbidden is
Mm.
back. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Corona is back. Yeah. And
yes.
so I heard the new songs of them, and I must say, when I heard the Corona song and the Forbidden song,
Mhm.
great. How can you put out a song after 30 years which sounds like it should sound after the last past record 30
Mhm.
years ago? So I was totally amazed by that. Also Forbidden after 15 years. Yeah, that sounds forbidden. This is 100% forbidden. And the same you hear on Mysterium from Paradox. It is a Paradox record. If you put it out and you hear the first 2 minutes after the intro, you know exactly which band is playing or which name is playing. Because I did it all by myself.
Okay, okay. Well, Charlie, we arrived at the sad moment of this interview. Thank you very much for your time.
I,
It was a
I have
tremendous
to thank.
pleasure to speak with you about the album, the composition process. How do you take the trails of the album completely for all the compositions and record all by you? So and also we're talking about more things related for the trash. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk with you. It was a pleasure. As I put, Paradox is one of my great records in the past. I have here on CD from that era. So perhaps you want to add something to your Latin American fans that expect someday a full Latin American tour. Who knows when? We don't know exactly. And obviously, Metalino followers.
I have to thank for the support of you, and I have to greet all fans in Latin America, and I would like to play there one day. Of course, I would like to play there one day, and I have to thank and